Welcome to Ether Insights. Welcome to Ether Insights. All right. Hopefully, you all like my intro music. I created it just for this channel, and I'll keep on iterating it. So let me know how you like it. But anyways, in this video, what I want to do is I want to talk about why someone may want to create their own NFT smart contract. We know that artists and anyone creating NFTs, they have different options, many options to create NFTs, to start creating NFTs. You know, they can go to platforms like OpenSea or Rarible or Midbase. There's so many options to start creating NFTs. But a lot of the artists, they choose platforms like OpenSea or Rarible because it's really easy to get started. And before we dive into, how to create that contract of your own, let's start with, why you may want to create these contracts that you own when creating NFTs, when minting NFTs. And before that, let's start by looking at two of the most popular NFT standards. On the left, we have the ERC 721 standard, which is really the gold standard for NFT today. It's the most popular NFT standard. It lets you create one-of-one NFTs or one-of-one tokens. Only one address owns one token, and hardcore collectors, someone who's really looking at the tech, right? They prefer the ERC 721 standard NFTs that follow the ERC 721 standard. And we also have ERC 1155 standard, and this is the standard that lets you create tokens that are one of one or 10 by 10, 20 by 20. Basically the multi-edition NFTs is enabled by a standard like ERC 1155. This was created mostly for gaming use cases and other use cases where a lot more flexibility can be achieved, but it has been getting popular with NFTs as well. Now here in the bottom, you'll see actually what happens, in a place like Etherscan, right? How this NFT transfer is represented in the blockchain. So when you transfer an ERC 721 token, you basically are sending that token ID, that token with ID of 21, let's say, and you send that to the buyer or the person you're sending it to. With ERC 1155, there can be multiple editions of the single token, right? So you basically send one of that token ID, right? So that's a quick way of saying how ERC 721 and 1155 are different, and there's a lot more to be said here. So if you want me to double click on anything, if you want me to deep dive on anything, let me know in the comments. This is mostly informative, and I'm happy to go a bit deeper in the coming videos. But basically, 721s are one of ones, right? You have your token, and no one else can have that token. 1155, 5 people can have the same NFT, and you all share the same token ID. So the other thing that we should probably touch on is something called the shared contracts, right? What is a shared contract? Now, platforms like OpenSea and Rarible, they make it really easy for you to start minting NFT and start selling NFTs. And this is enabled because they let you use an existing contract that they have already deployed, and then you just mint your NFTs and start selling under that contract. What that lets you do is you don't have to deploy your own contract, which costs sometimes around 0.2 ETH, and sometimes more than that, depending on the gas price and the complexity of your smart contract, right? But on average, it will at least cost you 0.2 Ethereum or 0.2 ETH to deploy a contract of your own. So you see how big of a barrier that is, right? For a new artist that hasn't sold anything, deploying their own contract for 0.2 ETH might be too big of an ask. So OpenSea, Rarible, and other platforms on Ethereum, NFT platforms on Ethereum built on top of Ethereum, let you use their shared contracts, which really makes it easy for artists to start minting and start selling, right? And one drawback, and we'll talk about this in a bit, is that when you use this shared contracts, is the token ID, it becomes something like this, right? A really long token ID, because a lot more people are minting under the same contract. So this is one of the drawback of using a shared contract. Now, one thing to note is if you mint NFT under OpenSea's shared contract, it, even if it's a one of one, if it's only a single edition NFT, it still becomes an ERC 1155 NFT, right? You would expect, if you only mint one token on OpenSea, that is a ERC 721. But the token that is created on OpenSea is 1155, regardless if it's a one of one or one of five, 5 of 5, 10 by 10. So this is one thing that many collectors, or not many, but this is something that hardcore collectors may not like, and maybe there's only a few hardcore collectors, but at least you lose some of the collectors, when you create NFTs under 1155. This particular piece is by an artist called Paper Buddha. He's one of my favorite NFT artists. And when this one of one was minted, I noticed that it was 1155, right? So this is something for artists to take a note of. In terms of benefits and drawbacks of shared contracts, Token Tracker is either Rari or OpenStore. When you use Rarible or OpenSea smart contract, the token tracker for your token ID or your token is one of Rari or OpenStore. When you create your own contract, the token tracker can be anything. So if I am creating my own contract, my token tracker will probably be something like ETHR Insight, right? Ether Insight. So I can customize the token tracker to be whatever I want. Now, one benefit of shared contracts on OpenSea and Rarible is that there's no cost to deploy the contract, which can be a lot of money. That is one of the advantages of shared contracts. So that is a plus. And when you create your own contract, it may cost you at least 0.2 ETH, which is a lot of money. The token ID will be a high number. We talked about that. We talked about this a while back, but when you use the OpenSea or Rarible shared contract, your token ID will be like 10000055551, something like that, right? On a token contract that you own, the token ID can start at like 1 or 2. It'll be a tiny number, right? And as you mint more NFTs, the token ID will only increase then. So you have more control of the token ID, but also you can collectors. I think it's always nice for collectors to own ID 5 of Ether Insight collection or something like that, right? So this is something to take a note of. And once again, like I said, some art collectors don't prefer the shared contracts, just like they don't prefer 1155, and like we said, OpenSea shared contracts are 1155 even if they're one of ones. So some collectors don't like that aspect. An artist-owned smart contract is considered a good thing by collectors, right? So if you, as an artist, have your own smart contract, that is always a plus, given that that contract is verified or deployed by a standard template like Rarible. If you just deploy a contract that has all bugs and loopholes, then yes, that won't be liked by the collectors. But if you deploy a smart contract from a place like Rarible or with companies like Manifold, who work with big artists, like we've seen, then having your own smart contract is a good thing. And in this slide, I have this tweet by Beanie from Pixel Vault. He sent a tweet out at one point saying, ERC 721 is a non-fungible token by default and is always will be gold standard of valuable collectible NFT. And ERC 1155 is a dual-purpose fungible and non-fungible token. Was developed by Engine to tokenize things like common gaming skins and other items. So this is a tweet So let's look at this tweet, right? So this went out, and people are pointing out the drawback of 1155. Anyways, ERC 721 and having your own contract is always a good thing, right? In most of the cases, if your contract is well written, right? But having said that, we've seen cases where collectors don't care too much, right? Like we saw with the Ghosts collection. Ghost collection is deployed on OpenSea, shared storefront, ERC 1155, but collectors don't seem to care. As you can see, the floor price is 6 ETH, and some of these have gone for hundreds of ETH. Yeah, collectors would like if something is ERC 721 and on your own contract, but at the same time, we've seen collectors not care, in these instances like the Ghosts collection. Now, one of the artists that I've seen who has his own smart contract is Baka Arts. I own one of the piece from Baka Arts, really amazing artist. And Baka Arts has two of his own contracts, one for the one-of-ones, like the Surrogates series, and one for the Surrogates multi-series, multiple editions, right? So Baka has one contract each for, single edition and multi-edition NFTs. Another example is Lirona, who is really popular on Rarible, probably one of the top sellers, top artists on Rarible. You'll always see her in the front page. And Lirona has her own contract for the one-of-ones, which is called the Boys. But for the multi-editions, I see Lirona is using the Rarible collection, the open Rarible collection. So some artists are, putting it all on Rarible or OpenSea. Some artists are mixing it up, and some artists are doing it, doing everything on their own contract, like Baka Arts is. So it's a spectrum of all kinds of choices, and whatever makes sense to you, artists have a choice. So having said that, what's an easy way to create your own smart contract to mint your own NFTs? So you can create your own smart contract via rarible.com in a couple of minutes if you're okay with spending around 0.2 ETH for the initial contract deployment. Rarible has this easy interface for you to create your own smart contract. As you can see on the right, you just have to enter a few things like the token name, the token symbol, description of your collection, and URL, and you can create your smart contract in a couple of minutes. So why don't we go to the second phase of this video and create our own smart contract on Rarible. So I'm going to have that creation of the smart contract on part 2 of this video. So please check out the part 2 video that I will be posting in the description, and let's create our own smart contract on Rarible.